If the church understood the Bible and the spiritual, it would understand that many of the traditions that it holds to are actually the things that further divide the church, such as pastors, such as the administration, such as the North American structure of the church. Instead of a church body coming together to minister to one another and to be ministers to the public, we become a hub for believers to sit down and listen to one man interpret the Bible for us and to motivate us to go out throughout the week. But what this does is it creates complacency. That complacency is where we are today in the 21st century church. And that's why I believe that knowing the prophecies that I have for the church will act very much in favor of the Day of Atonement, such as it will cover our body with the spiritual understanding of the very word that we already know so well. And I hear it time and time again that we're not supposed to be talking about the enemy in church, that we shouldn't be bringing the enemy to light, because that would be to recognize the enemy. But I want to know what a wolf smells like. I want to know what his breath smells like. I want to know what the sharpness of his teeth feel like when I touch them. I want to know what his farts smell like. For crying out loud, we should know who our enemy is. Why aren't the churches teaching us about the number one growing religion in the world right now? Satanism. When was the last time you went to a church sermon that actually gave you the resources to know about your enemy? I think it is so wrong that churches all over North America abstain from bringing to light the names of the demons that are all around us, that are influencing all of the sheep, that are instigating these divisions. I believe it's important that we shine light on these bastards. They are not a sheep. And yet, we're not supposed to understand that? Are you kidding me? I've been face to face with a pastor very locally to me just recently that showed me his true colors. Why do you think I'm doing this whole ministry on my own? I should be doing this through the church, through a church, but I've already tried so many times to talk to different individuals in the church, and I was this close to a pastor who admitted to me in about 3 different ways that his master was not Jesus Christ. This is a pastor who's running a church and has been for the last 2 years, been talking about the gospel. This is a pastor who wanted authority over me, his brother. He wanted me to lay down my authority at his feet. Something that 1 Corinthians teaches us love is not. He wanted me to recorrect memories, old past experiences of mine that he wasn't even around for, because in his words, they just could not be true. So Crispin, stop. I was face to face with a man who then went to kick me out of the meeting, out of the church, so that he could divide the 1 from the 99. Because he didn't want to talk about the issues at hand. He didn't even want to read the Bible. This is all behind closed doors. And as soon as we were outside of those closed doors, and I went to go put this in wording, he couldn't write back and put anything into wording, because that's how these wolves operate. They use manipulation on you, and as soon as they realize that you are not able to be converted to their manipulation, they hop on you and kick you out. This is not abnormal. This is not some hidden secret thing. This is something that has been going on far too long. Far, far too long. And so that is what the Christmas Ministries is here to do, is to flush out these wolves and to give the believers of this 21st century church the very tools needed to read their Bible in its fullness, or at least maybe not in declaring its fullness, but in understanding that the way you've been reading it, you've been told these interpretations that cause division, which is not uncommon considering the very fact that back up 506 years ago to the Great Reformation, we had the Catholic Church holding these books from us, interpreting the word for us. So, yeah, I get a little bit burnt up about this issue when I've run into it myself, not just once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5, and just everywhere I go, every church that I go to. The body is busy following the physical symptoms of a body. It's not following any of the spiritual symptoms of the body. And by symptoms, I mean the reaction to the gospel. Because we have a physical response and we have a spiritual response. And I believe that what I have in this ministry is going to blow that out of the water, because believers are going to be able to read and interpret their word to the point where they start coming to church, not to counter what the sermon is saying, but in a way where they don't need the sermon from one person anymore, because they themselves are a pastor. They themselves are an elder. They themselves are a seer, not by any knighting that they might get from the church, not by any declaration, or it's declaration made on a part of the church. No, these are going to be individuals coming in with the blessing and the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, so that they will be prophesying, not only in tongues, but they will be prophesying in knowledge and power and in authority over the church. This is what I have been shown, is that there is a great awakening coming to the 21st century church. Except the 21st century church is stuck in the exact same example as the Pharisees were when they were confronted with the issue of, do we put Jesus Christ on the cross, or do we understand him as the Messiah? We are going through the exact same thing again. Except this time, it's in the 21st century church. And this time, the 21st century church wants to hold on to the traditions that were set 2,000 plus years ago. And we're very much influenced by men. The very fact that we have the Catholic Church that started out of Peter's interpretation of Jesus talking to him as the rock that was going to be having the church built on it. Like, what an idiot. Like, he's the same idiot that went up to the Transfiguration and was talking about building tents for Elijah and Moses when they showed up as apparitions. Like, how do you build a physical tent for spiritual beings? Right there, you know that you don't have your mind on the situation. Plus, Peter's also the one who denied Christ 3 times. So now he's cursed by it. So it is no surprise to me that this information, this knowledge has fallen to the wayside, because I have found no mention of it in the churches. I can't find even the church wanting to talk about it. Not one pastor have I gone to speak about what I have to bring to the church has ever received me in the mindset of, wait a minute, maybe I have something to learn. Maybe this guy, as crazy as he seems, he says he is a prophet, that he has something to bring to the church, to build up the church. Maybe, just maybe, I should put an ounce of trust into the unknown and make myself a fool so that, yeah, I'm a pastor. Yeah, I know. But you know what? Maybe I'll just give this guy the time of day and listen. Maybe I'll just, you know what? You're saying you come from God? Hey, you know what? When was the last time that you, as a church, had a person come up to you saying, the word of the Lord has come to me and I need to speak it? It's not convoluted. It's something that makes sense. And I really believe it's going to build up the church so that we can all be made into disciples at this very, very close to the end times time. That has been met over and over again with this callous, down-the-nose attitude that like I need to be helped. When, in fact, I'm trying to help the church, but then every single church I go to, they're always trying to fix the problem and fix what's going on in the church. And their solution is not to go back to the basics, not to go back to the scriptural plan. No, it's to do the very same thing. So that's my rant, and I'm going to get more to it as we go, but I don't want to get into specifics. But I believe that every single Christian that goes to church can be empowered with the words that I have for them through these prophecies. If we as a church can understand that names are important in the Bible, that numbers are important in the Bible, that actually, in fact, all 66 books of the Bible are presenting one idea, one image, then that image can be understood. And if that image can be understood, then you can apply this to other religions out there. And other truths out there, other ideas out there. And so if you know that the Bible has this, just take my word for it, this equation that's 4 plus 7 equals 11. And you know that every single book of the Bible declares this 4 plus 7 equals 11 equation. Then when somebody offers you an idea or another book, like I've recently just had with the Book of Mormon, and right away I can see that the 1, 2, 3 pattern does not fit. And I can, because it's not the whole God says, I says, or don't says, and then it is, or like if you think of it, seed, growth, and result, it's not that. It's actually something else. It's got 1, 2, 3 pattern in it, but it's something else. And then if you look at their equation that represents their book just off their introduction and the witnesses that are used, it's not a 4 plus 7 equals 11 equation. It's a 3 plus 8 equals 11 equation. So isn't that fascinating that for 66 books of the Bible, it has one equation every single time, one image every single time, one display of its frequency every single time. 4 plus 7 equals 11. That's what it happens for 66 books. So how is it that another, like in quote here, exactly what it says on the front cover of the Mormon Bible or Testament is another testament. It's another testament of Jesus Christ. And it's just right away I was able to see that it had a different pattern. It was a 3 plus 8 equals 11 pattern, not a 4 plus 7 equals 11 pattern. It's still equal to 11, but that's where it gives me this understanding of what 11 is. This number that means judgment or covering. And so if God is coming back to me, I want to know how to be covered. I don't want to know how I'm going to be judged. And that's exactly what the Book of Mormon was telling me right off the hop, was this is a book of judgment, of how not to be judged. Not about to be covered. It's essentially how to follow these laws and rules. That's just one example of how, if you know this image of the Bible is true, you can replicate it in other areas of the world, religions, and other areas of your life, actually.